Have you ever found yourself perplexed by human behavior? Perhaps you've wondered why a notoriously demanding boss seems to take pleasure in making their employees' lives difficult. Or maybe you've watched a friend repeatedly return to a relationship that clearly causes them pain, leaving you asking, why do they put up with it? These scenarios, though common, touch upon some of the most perplexing yet powerful concepts in psychology: sadism and masochism. In simple terms, sadism is the drive to find pleasure in causing others to suffer, while masochism is the drive to find pleasure in enduring ill treatment. Now, while our culture commonly associates these terms with very specific sexual scenarios, their true reach is far broader and more subtle. These dynamics are at play everywhere in our lives, from the corporate office and the high school hallway to the dynamics within a family. And yes, in the bedroom or the dungeon. They are fundamental patterns of how we relate to power, control, and pain. So, the great question remains, why do these impulses exist? Why would any of us, beings who are supposedly wired for self-preservation and the pursuit of happiness, seem to delight in inflicting suffering, or even more strangely, take satisfaction in enduring it? It seems to run counter to our most basic instincts. The key to unlocking this profound paradox is to view these behaviors not as inherent character flaws, but as complex, deeply ingrained strategies for survival. They are attempts to deal with a past, often unbearable, experience of fear, cruelty, or profound unkindness. This is the most crucial point to grasp, before anyone becomes a sadist or a masochist. They were first a victim. The subsequent behaviors we see are the mind's desperate, concerted attempts to find a way out of the memory of raw, naked pain. Think of it like a bone that was broken and never set properly. It heals, but it heals into a crooked shape. Sadism and masochism are these crooked shapes, psychological adaptations to an injury that never fully healed. Both are trying to ensure they will survive what once felt like it might annihilate them, not just physically, but psychologically. Let's first explore the path of the sadist. Their solution to past trauma is the more direct, and seemingly more aggressive of the two. Having experienced profound cruelty and powerlessness, they come to a stark conclusion: the surest way to escape the shadow of being a victim is to become the one who casts the shadow. The poison they were forced to swallow is now redirected outward. In a tragic transformation, the formerly terrified child becomes the terrifying adult. Implicitly, the sadist adopts a grim, binary worldview. In life, there are only two roles available: you are either the victim or you are the perpetrator. There is no middle ground. And their best, perhaps only, chance of never again ending up as the former is to ensure that they will always and forever be the latter. This isn't necessarily a conscious, calculated decision. It is a deep, instinctual defense mechanism. By inflicting a controlled form of the pain they once felt onto someone else, they achieve a desperate sense of control. The other person's fear or suffering becomes a twisted confirmation of their own safety and power. In a psychological sense, this is known as identification with the aggressor. To escape the terror of the monster, you become the monster. Now, let's turn to the more roundabout path of the masochist. Masochists, just like sadists, have also been the victims of cruelty. And like sadists, they are also in constant flight from that same feeling of utter defenselessness. However, their method of adaptation is far more complex and, in a psychological sense, almost ingenious. A deep-seated sense of weakness, whether real or perceived, holds them back from trying to persecute others. They do not feel powerful enough to become the perpetrator. And yet, the memory of suffering still haunts them, and they desperately need a way to manage it. So, their mind stumbles upon a remarkable maneuver. They decide that from this point forward, they will choose suffering rather than simply have it forced upon them. They seize control by turning a painful necessity into something that feels like a choice. This is the illusion of agency. The original trauma was terrifying because it was unpredictable and outside of their control. By seeking out familiar kinds of pain, the masochist makes the unbearable predictable. They may not be able to avoid pain, but they can control its terms. We see this play out in heartbreaking ways, where they once had no option but to be emotionally neglected by their family. They now subconsciously go out in an active search of mean-minded or unavailable partners, people they can unconsciously tell will deny them the very tenderness and care they crave. When this predictable rejection happens, it is painful. Yes. But it is a familiar pain. It confirms their internal narrative that they are unworthy. But it also perversely feels safe because it is known. Where they were once told by a critical parent that they were a failure, they now ruin their own chances at success before anyone else has the opportunity. They procrastinate on a vital work project. They miss a crucial deadline. They say the wrong thing in an important interview. This self-sabotage is a way of controlling the narrative of failure. It's a way of saying, I didn't fail because I wasn't good enough. I failed because I made myself fail. The control, however illusory, feels better than the terrifying vulnerability of trying and having an external force crush you. So, how do we break free from these deeply entrenched cycles? How do we heal the original wound so that these defenses are no longer necessary? To liberate ourselves, we must find the courage to travel back in time. Emotionally, we need to find our way back to the original pain that lies behind these behaviors. And then, we must do the one thing our entire psychological defense system was built to avoid. We must truly and fully mourn what we went through. We must exchange the repetitive, sharp sting of reenacted pain for the deep, cleansing release of sorrow. Sorrow is pain that is being processed. It is fluid and has a purpose. We need to cry for the child who had to endure so much, for the person who was so hurt and alone. We must stop asking anyone else about it, a stranger, a partner, or, just as tragically, our Sylvestos suffer any further to pay a debt that was never theirs to begin with. This journey of mourning isn't about getting stuck in the past. It's about liberating the future. It's a process, often best navigated with the help of a compassionate therapist or a supportive community. Because the original wound was often inflicted in isolation, the process involves first becoming aware of the pattern, then connecting it to its source, and finally, allowing the stored emotions of grief, anger, and fear to surface in a safe space. As we do this, we begin the vital work of self-reparenting. We learn to offer ourselves the compassion, validation, and protection we were once denied. We start to understand, in our bones, that we are no longer that helpless child. We are adults with agency. We can learn to set boundaries. We can learn to seek out relationships built not on a reenactment of trauma, but on a foundation of genuine kindness, respect, and mutual care. We finally see that the roles of the victim and perpetrator were never the only options. They were just the only ones visible from inside the storm of trauma. Healing allows us to see the vast, open landscape of other, healthier possibilities of being a partner, a friend, a creator, a mentor, and a healer for ourselves and, in turn, for others. The pen to write the rest of our story is, at last, in our own hand. If this exploration of the human heart resonates with you, and if you're interested in continuing the journey towards self-understanding and emotional well-being, we warmly invite you to join our community. Please consider subscribing to our channel for more content that helps us navigate the beautiful and challenging complexities of our own minds. Thank you for watching.